Let's get it. One more. Let's get into it. Sometimes that first clap isn't recorded, and I don't want to disappoint anybody. Let's get right into the story. This is Coach Colin News. Former ESPN host Sage Steele claims Biden struggled to finish sentences in unaired portion of recorded interview. Wow. I can't say that I'm surprised about this, okay? Because, everybody's talking about this and every person can see it. And people who are voting for Biden right now, like, all the power to you. Vote for whoever you want. But they have to be seeing it too, right? I don't know. Maybe they don't see it. I don't know. It's a very odd thing. But this host was willing to actually speak on this, which is very surprising because if you're close enough to get an interview with Biden, you're usually not the type that would air out this type of business. But she had no problem doing that. I'm going to show you a couple of clips from her. One, which is right here, and the next one's going to be from Bill Maher. So this is the interview that was done. She's going to explain a little bit about how scripted it was. Then I'm going to show her on Bill Maher's podcast, and she's going to go even deeper into how scripted it was and how sad it made her to see him in this form. Let's go.
Here as we get set for a wonderful day in sports. Opening day for America's national pastime.
This was about 2 months after he took office. That was an interesting experience in its own right because it was so structured, and I was told, you will say every word that we write out. You will not deviate from the script and go to the word. Like every single question was scripted, gone over dozens of times by many executives, editors and executives. Absolutely. I was on script and was told not to deviate. It was very much, this is what you will ask. This is how you will say it. No follow-ups. No follow-ups. Next. I knew that this was a lot bigger than just the wonderful editors that I worked with. This went up to the fourth floor, as we said, that we're all the bosses, the top executives, the decision makers are the president of our company, the CEO, where they all work.
Here as we get set for.
So everybody looked over this. Editors checked it out many times to make sure that it was, easy enough for him to handle, I guess. Not controversial at all. Just perfect questions so he could give perfect answers. Not super surprised that that's happening, but here's the thing. Bill Maher once said, and he's into all sorts of crazy. He gets whatever the opposite of TDS is for Biden, he gets that. He has that for Biden. And he says it doesn't matter. He said these exact words. It doesn't matter if he can't speak. What matters is what he says when he's in these behind closed doors and he's dealing with, matters for the country. That's what really matters. It doesn't matter what he says when he's on stage in front of people. And I really disagree with that statement because here's the thing. Presidents have to be on stage and speak. And if they got real good relations with countries, they're going to be in other countries speaking. That's a representation. People are always bringing up this conversation about Trump and how he's not presidential enough because he's this raw human being who just puts it out there. But the same thing can go for that. If he's in front of a bunch of people and he trails off or doesn't know what he's saying, that's a really big issue that nobody's really pointing out. But also the thing about it is, what if you are behind closed doors and you are talking to Vladimir Putin and you are saying something that can determine the course of a nation, two nations, and you get into this whole mode of what you're going to hear her describe of trailing off and not saying things properly and forgetting what you're saying and all these different things, what's going to happen? Isn't that a huge problem? And again, this is something that is largely considered conspiracy, but how could you can't afford to have that happen in a country, for a country. You can't afford that to happen in America. So then, is it really him that's sitting down doing this? Because you can't go to Vladimir Putin and say, hey, everything you're going to talk about, no follow-ups. You can't do that. You can't do that if he's out in China or if he's in Taiwan or if he's in Canada. You can't do that. There has to be follow-ups. It has to be a conversation. So how is he handling those conversations with other world leaders? I don't know. Say what you want about Trump. At least you know that when he gets on that plane and he leaves and he goes to another nation, you know more than likely while he's in that meeting, he's calling the shots. More than likely, whoever's behind him, assistants and this and that, he's telling them, I got it. Let me talk to this guy. Biden can't possibly be doing that. But let's move on. This is a surprising clip. This is the first time you're going to hear Bill Maher not bring up Donald Trump while somebody is talking disparagingly about Biden. Frame this clip, because this has never happened before. Listening to her speak about Biden with a smile on his face. Maybe it's because she's a beautiful woman. Maybe that's the reason why. Here, let's listen.
Yes. So honestly, they show their stupidity.
They so stupid.
Constantly. And that whole thing in Atlanta was just ridiculous. And so I was interviewing Biden leading up to that. And I had to ask him if he supported, pulling the game out of there. But the story was, honestly, I don't like him. I think he's a terrible president. However, forget that. The human aspect of what we're witnessing right now with him, to me, is heartbreaking and it's inexcusable.
Right. By
the family. When you knew during the election, and that was my point, is so we're taping it, not live. For my live show, it was like, let's tape this. And it is the President of the United States. Right. So I was okay taping. Usually I hate taping, live, go, react, just whatever.
Same thing with me.
I'm better live. It's just the pressure. I don't know what it is.
We're the same person.
We're sickos is what we are if we like it live better. The adrenaline rush. So we had a technical issue. I'm like, really? Like the leader of the free world is sitting here, and it was satellite. It wasn't in person. We're having a technical issue. And so I had to BS. I had to chit chat in waiting for us to start rolling.
To him?
Yes. And so.
Ask him about corn pop.
What?
He once told this long story about, never mind. Corn pop. You got to look.
Okay, I have to look that up.
Google it.
Well, what he started to do, of course, he has someone next to him, and they keep a black curtain over the lens of the camera so you can't see him until the last second, which you can hear, and we're chit-chatting, and they're protecting him. Right. Maybe they do it with all the presidents. I don't know. I've only interviewed one. But so I could hear him, and I heard him, and he goes, what is this for? And I'm sitting there going, because my mic's on, everybody's listening in the control room.
Wow.
And he's like, who am I talking to?
Oh.
Wait, what's her name? And I was like, oh.
This is like a Naked Gun movie.
I was going, oh my God. And then he said, SportsCenter, ESPN. And they told me, he goes, oh, okay. And so I said, what do you say? Hi, Mr. President.
Right.
Nice to meet you. And so I'm trying to just fill time. And he said, I used to play football. And I'm like, yes, I know that. And now I think it was University of Delaware, I believe.
I didn't know that.
Hens, yes. And so he started to tell football stories of his greatness. And I just was, again, I can't see him. You can see the curtain moving.
And that was the theme of the stories, that he was great at football?
At football.
He was the hero in the story?
And then he said,
wow.
He goes, and I had the best hands. And what do you say to that?
Well, ironically, Clinton used to say the same thing.
If
it was Clinton, trust me, you wouldn't have any trouble chit-chatting.
Well,
he would have been all over that.
I would have preferred to keep it via satellite versus in person for Clinton as well. And then I said, oh, so you were a receiver? And he started to explain it. And here's the saddest thing. His voice just trailed off. He said, I was good. And then he went silent and he goes, oh, never mind. No, you're laughing. I thought it was so sad because I realized that's why he was in his basement during the whole election cycle. Right. Because even then, he couldn't finish his sentences. He struggled. So forget about politics. I don't care. I didn't vote for him. However, that made me sad to realize.
So you didn't vote for Biden either?
No. Wow. No.
And that's okay.
Thank
I still love you.
Okay.
I still love you. Wow. Joe Rogan brings up Biden and all of a sudden they're going to war. He's like, what about Trump? What about Trump? This lady says it and he's like, I still love you. Both hands in the air. Look at him. Just happy. Just happy that there's a beautiful lady in front of him. Bill's a ladies' man. If you guys didn't know, Bill's a ladies' man. There's been some books that have been written that involve him in the books, and Bill doesn't play around. If you don't know, the younger crowd may not know, Bill doesn't play around at all. It's amazing they bring up Clinton. Clinton would have loved to interview with Sage Steele. He would have been like, listen, we're doing it like this. Let's just meet up. Let's just meet up. I'll do a helicopter. I can send a helicopter to you. We can meet at this island I got. My friend Jeffrey just lets me use this island. We can just meet up there. You know? I got bikinis, whatever you need, whatever you like to wear. Oh my gosh. But very interesting take on things to actually hear how that works, because usually the people who get to interview Biden are on that side completely. They're talking heads. They are never going to deviate. They're never going to talk about the inner workings, especially on Bill Maher's podcast and various other publications. So for her to actually open a window into what it's like, again, not many of us are surprised because you see it, but to hear it happening like that, where he doesn't know what's going on and he's not finishing sentences, and, you know, everything has to be completely like, I'm going to say this first, like pretty much what he can handle is you're going to say this first, you're going to say this second, you're going to say this third, and he doesn't even have to listen to what she's saying because she's so curated, so scripted in what she has to say, and she can't deviate. Like she said in the first clip, she can't deviate from it even by a little bit. Nothing. And there's no follow-ups. So interesting to see. Interesting to see. Another 4 years of that. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible even. You'd have to wait and see. Interesting about Sage Steele. Apparently, Bill Maher is launching a podcast network. I had no idea. And she's going to be one of his first hosts. So this was announced around the time they did the interview. So I guess they've been working together. I guess they've been talking. So she is actually going to have a show on Bill Maher's network. I'm not sure how that's going to look. More than likely, it's going to look like Daily Wire, I assume, where it's going to be powered by Bill Maher's company. Not sure what the name of that company is yet. People are saying it's just going to be Club Random, but it's going to be a network. I don't know if that works just for branding wise. I don't know if that's going to make any sense, but he's going to have a company. He's going to be powering these podcasts, probably going to all be housed on an app, website. You're going to have to pay for full episodes, or maybe you just see clips of it on YouTube, just like you used to see with Candace Owens and you see with Matt Walsh and all the various players in the Daily Wire. So that's very interesting to see that Bill Maher's stepping into that arena. He doesn't seem like he likes to do much, so I find it very interesting. He's happy with his podcast. He's happy with his show. He's made it clear that he doesn't want to do too much. You know, he goes on tour when he wants to. You know, say what you want about Bill Maher, but he, as much as it seems like he is bought and paid for at times, he seems to have this system where he does what he wants. If you didn't know, the way that he operates is he has no manager, which I find interesting, because usually these Hollywood people, they have managers and handlers and assistants and this, and, you know, publicists and all this stuff. And I'm sure he has all that, but he has no manager. And if you want him to do something, you call him, he does not answer, you leave a message, he just lists all the things, he sees if they're the right price, and then he just decides whether or not he does it. Sounds pretty cool. Sounds like what I would do. So very interesting to see, but we'll see how that podcast turns out. Sage Steele, she seems good. She seems good. She stood up for her rights. I think at one point she was asked to do the procedure that everybody was asked to do back in 2020. And I think she refused, and she started looking into it, and she started speaking out about it. And of course, when you're working with a publication or a platform like ESPN, that's going to make so you sever ties pretty quickly. So now she's kind of independent, and Bill Maher's going to pick her up. So the little bit of that I've heard of her so far, she seems like a great speaker. She speaks her mind. So we'll see what happens with all that. Listen, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And other than that, I'm out. Let me know what you think in the comments.